Hi everybody, Denis Daigle from TinyLifeTAKEOVER. This is my tiny house by the river as I'm transitioning from building it to living in it, and today we're out of power. Let me talk to you through the realizations that I had looking at my system, found yet another flaw, but an opportunity to make it better, and also to reflect on why I've actually put this together and how it's enriched my life in so many ways. So let me get in there, warm up by the fire, and talk you through all of that. I mean, how cool is this? It's kind of like a snow cave. Awesome. This is teaching me so much. We weren't warned about this. A lot came down, and all of a sudden the power was out this morning. Let me go through exactly what I've learned with this power outage and how it's not about being off grid, but actually being functional when the power goes out. Sitting there was the first time that I can go, am I functional? So the first thing I thought of was, I can use the bathroom. Growing up, if the power went out, my parents would say, don't use the toilet because the pump is needed to power to flush the toilet. So the first thing was like, I have a composting toilet. I don't need water to run it. So that's cool. And the second part, well, I can certainly make myself a coffee. I've got the propane stove, so I was able to do that. So that's quite functional. To stay warm, clearly I've got the fire going, which is such a blessing. What else? So in this center console at the middle of the house is where I stash my kind of emergency things. So I have a battery powered light that I use and also a few other odds and ends. But then it made me realize, hey, maybe I could have a first aid kit in here, candles, and kind of whatever I need when the power goes out. But through all of that, I found a flaw. There's a flaw. What's missing is my drinking water. Because right now, daily what I do is I have a drinking jug. I go to my parents' place and I fill up the drinking jug daily. So it gives me my water for coffee, for tea, and just normal water drinking throughout the day. But every day I need to replenish it. So what happens if that stops? Because they also have a pump drawing that water. So it forces them, as any kind of storm situation, you see the lights blinking, you go as fast as you can to draw some water out and keep it. So I'm used to growing up filling the bathtub, filling pots with water. Because of that fact, you need power to run the pump to draw the water. So for this tiny house, I have that flaw to fix where I'm gonna need some fresh drinking water, maybe a few gallons. So I need to figure out a solution for that. And one thing that I've seen in the past that I've kept in here is this idea of it's a double pot with some filters inside. The Swamp Boss, and I'll add a link to the details, showed a nice cost-effective way of doing it, but there's also an expensive setup you can use, but now I understand it. So having a few gallons of fresh drinking water available means that I don't need to run a pump, or I don't need to depend on my parents or a neighbor or anything for that water, just for the short amount of time. Who knows how long this power outage will last? So far it's been a couple of hours, but it's all about trying to be functional. So you'll also remember that I do have those two water tanks with the fresh water, 75 gallon, and I have the wastewater or gray water of 35 gallons. Well, what happens when the power goes out? I have a pump to pump the fresh water to the taps, but then I also have this pump to exit all of that water. So clearly, if this power outage would go for a few days and I had water and I was putting it down the drain, that's the only place that I can do that, then that holding tank would fill up. Eventually, it would fill up to the point where it would back up. So part of what we've been talking about, my dad and I, is that for the kitchen sink, we're going to just have a 5 gallon underneath the sink so that any water that goes in with the food bits and stuff will be able to just be taken out. I have this big tree out back that I've been pouring my gray water into to help nourish that tree. So this power outage really emphasizes the fact that not only am I not going to be putting food particles and stuff inside of my holding tank and then hoping that the pump can draw all of that out. So I'm eliminating that. But also in this case, I can keep filling, putting water down my sink, food, and wash my dishes with any water I bring in. And that will be going outside, not sitting in my holding tank. So another bonus on that. And the beauty of this system, if this works well, is that I can have one bottle that I use for bringing in that fresh water, but also my gray water that I use to take water out is the second bottle, and I can keep it under the sink. Let me show you what I mean. So here's what I'm talking about. I have this 5-gallon gray water bottle, and that's what I'm going to use under the sink to be able to grab all of that. And it's also what I use when I turn on the pump. So I take as many of those out as I need to that comes from the holding tank. For the fresh water, instead of that big 25-gallon 4 times that I had used to fill it up, I have this 5-gallon that I bring it 1 5-gallon at a time. And it's also what I'm going to be using when I have enough, then I can just use this as my fresh drinking water. But here's the beauty about all this system. If for some reason we ran out of clean drinking water and I had to go get my drinking water from somewhere, I have a bottle ready to go. And also it's one that with the system, I could just purchase these bottles if that came to be, and the system would work. So it's kind of a cool happening that with this whole water system, that if everything stops working in this world and we have to do these emergency water runs, I'm set up and ready to go. So an added bonus. And something that my dad suggested and actually put into use is we use this power pack, which is 12 volt, to be able to run the small pump to take that fresh water and dump it into my fresh water holding tank. I don't have a generator, but I have this power pack, and it's something that just gives me that extra safety, and I can store it in my nice big drawer. Isn't that wonderful? And oh, by the way, I got my art piece. Yes, sir. No power, no problem. Working on something I will show you momentarily. Just wait for this. And here's what this looks like at night. So I hope that you're enjoying yourself wherever you are. And if this is your only way to see what a Canadian winter is all about, these are the kind of surprises that we have and we have to be prepped for. So I'm loving this. So appreciating being in this place, living here, making these choices, and seeing how they're really working out. So with all of that, thank you, my friends, for watching, following along, from my dad and I, and my mom, from a tiny house by the river at TinyLifeTAKEOVER. Thank you for watching. Take care of each other, and God bless.